Now is the challenge. It's your will versus your mind. It's not mind over matter about eating the food. It's your will and awareness to see the impulse and your mind offering temptation. Your body will follow wherever your will goes. But your mind is trying to take your willpower, which it does if you kind of fall asleep and go unconscious. But if you stay aware and present. So there was a couple of things I was going to cover. Just about a cleanse process that you might show up along the way. And as much as the first one has to do with the paradox of discipline and freedom. In the Toltec tradition that I studied in and initiated in, we talked a lot about personal freedom. And personal freedom was to get rid of the Maya belief system, the fear, self-judgment, the mind. We call it mitote, of all the chatter in your head. And because what we wanted was freedom. We wanted to play and be free. The contradiction was, this is a very rigorous system of beliefs, been built up and reinforced for many years. And it's, as you face it, it may seem quite formidable. And so as much as there was a desire to be free, there was a need to break out of this, and I will talk about it as this field of the mind that surrounds us. A lot of people talk about the mind and they refer to it, the brain. I think a better model is, think of it as a bubble that surrounds you, a fog that surrounds you. That's actually the way I see it. And then to break through and gain our personal freedom, or other systems would call it nirvana and samadhi and consciousness and awakening. You actually have to be very disciplined, and discipline is to follow a rigorous set of patterns that actually contradict the mind's patterns to break free of it. So this is something, this discipline system is something that this cleanse very much utilizes. And we built this mind, this fog, as the walls that trap us, keep us from our freedom. And it runs incessantly. And we built it through repetition. Incessant repetition. We reinforce it through incessant repetition when we believe our thoughts, believe our fears. And one of the ways you dismantle it is through incessant repetition, the discipline to continue a willful pattern to break free. Fasting is a willful pattern. Anything that changes a habit, anything that changes a neural pathway to a different program is breaking you free. The three biggest habits we have are speaking, thinking, our language, food, sleep. So that the easiest entry point into a disciplined habit is in the big ones, is food. An easy one is to change the direction you drive to work, change what time you get up in the morning. But the more tangible one that you can see and feel and notice and measure is food. So while this is a cleanse of the body of, okay, let's get some inflammatory sugars that run our insulin and glucose levels out of healthy zones. Why we want to change that and make our body healthier, stimulants like caffeine, and get rid of that so we calm down, and alcohol, which is a poison. So we change the microbiome in our gut. All of that puts in us a different neural pathway and a habit. We are doing something different in our brain. We are doing something new. We have to think consciously, and we work and we create this new neural pathway for a new experience. And it's somewhat like digging a tunnel. It takes work. But once you create it, you have the tunnel. It's easy to go back and forth through and do this new routine at any time, because the neural pathway is built. The roadway in your brain is built. Okay. So while we're changing our physical habits, we're changing our mental and emotional patterns and strengthening our will, making a connection, strengthening our will, and raising our awareness to notice these little impulses where our mind wants to say, oh yeah, this is no big deal. Just have that donut, just have that coffee. One drink won't be a big deal. And where there's a negotiation and an offering and temptation, and you're strengthening your awareness to go, I see you, no thank you. Because you've made this very strong commitment to break the habit of just accepting that thought as true and doing what it says. And you do it incessantly, repeatedly during the day. No, I'm not having that snack. No, I'm not having that snack. No, I'm not doing that. Oh, there's a chance to complain. No, thank you. Oh, there's a chance to complain. No, thank you. And being with the feeling of not following that track, you're creating that different neural pathway. 10 times a day, you have about 450 times in this period that you can build a neural pathway. That's enough to do it. That's enough to do it. So it's not just our body, it's cleansing. We're cleansing out a chunk of the walls of this fog that surround us, that trap us, so we can move out and get into the freedom of our personal freedom and how we want to express ourselves and how we want to feel. That for me, when I started, I had long forgotten. I didn't even know was possible. How good it could feel. So how this journey goes, typically in the beginning, get the idea, get the commitment. We imagine this change is possible, and our expectation is very high. It's like, oh, great, yeah, let's go make all this change. And then that initial motivation, excitement, optimism, well, now the mind, it's kind of just been pushed aside in that initial inspiration, comes back in and says, yeah, but we got this old habits. We want you to do this. You're starting to move outside the box, outside the walls. Please get back in. And it tells you with all sorts of tempting ways to get back in your box of your container, where it's trying to keep you, quote unquote, safe. Or scare you into safety, or tempt you how it's so much better just to stay there, or how it's so much worse to do that other thing, or this is a terrible idea, this cleanse and not eating XYZ. Starts tempting you with ideas, wanting you to follow ideas and stay in the pattern. And now we've set up what was the initial stage of, oh, that's optimistic inspiration, that'll feel good, that'll be a nice way to change. Now the mind has come back in, and now we've set up an opposition. We've intentionally set up an opposition. You may not have realized it, but you say, I'm going to go this way. And the mind is going to be like, we want you back in the box. We want you back in the box. It's better for you in the box. It's easier for you in the box. Just follow the rules we've given you. It's terrible out there. It's not worth it. This stuff is crazy. This is the leverage of the story it's trying to offer you. And your awareness is about, okay, I see the temptation. No, thank you. Your muscle is to align with your will and not with your mind. Your awareness to No, thank you. To strengthen that gap between you and the temptations of your mind, or what it seems like your body really wants. You'll find out it's not your body that wants the potato chips and the alcohol and your body's fine with all that stuff. It's the mind. Okay. So in the middle, you lose that inspiration optimistic part, and now it's the challenge. It's your will versus your mind. It's not mind over matter about eating the food. It's your will and awareness to see the impulse and your mind offering temptation. Your body will follow wherever your will goes. But your mind is trying to take your willpower, which it does if you kind of fall asleep and go unconscious. But if you stay aware and present, your mind will be like on the outside. You'll watch it as an observer, and it will be trying to get to your will and get you to follow. And this is the intentional struggle. And this will go on until usually a few weeks. This middle stage. I mean, it may show up on day 2, day 3. It may show up in week 2 or week 4. That you're like, oh man, everything was going great, and then I hit week 4, and it's like, ha ha! The war, the struggle, the challenge. Oh man, things got really loud. Good, you're in the game now. It could kind of lull you into that high level of optimism and everything's going so smooth, this high level of confidence, until you become overconfident and you let your guard down, and then it really starts pushing. Everybody's process will be different. The timing will be different. But then this is where it's important to celebrate your wins, the smallest one. When you see it and you say, no, thank you. When you see it, you say, no, thank you. When you see it and you say, no, thank you. Every time it's a win. That is another rep at the gym. That is another rep more than you did last time. Okay. And then, the stories and temptations may be there the next day. And every time you say, no, thank you, it's a rep at the gym. You're getting extra reps every time. Celebrate every win. One of the challenges, you can get really confident to overconfident in the beginning as your inspiration optimism starts. You can become in the middle when you're directly challenged to dream to your will, is you become underconfident. You move into doubt, fear, about the process, about being able to make it. You're in that narrative story. And that's a character story. That's the mind. It's the mind first getting a hold of you and then telling you how things are. If you believe it, then you are aligning with your mind to go to then direct your will. Okay, where the mind is directing you. And so that's the feeling powerless part of the struggle. And then there's another part where you're winning and you're getting lots of wins. You're like, I can do this. This is working. Okay, I see the change. And my body feels better and I feel more energy and I have more vitality. And yeah, and you know what? Food is tasting good. The gluten-free stuff tastes better than the other stuff you used to eat. And the sugar and my chai tea tastes better without the milk and the honey in it. And it's like, this is just as good as my coffee. Or you like kale chips and you're like, these are great. They just like really taste, and a piece of fruit is better than ice cream, for dessert. It's like, there's so much flavor and richness and pleasure in it, right? This is where you've built a new habits and you're enjoying the pleasure, and there's this dopamine enjoyment. And there's also in that place of wins, this tempting Now, again, overconfident potential, where you go so far into the story, I got this. This is easy. Oh, yeah, no problem. That you go from feeling the win to feeling yourself as the winner, to the overconfident side. You've taken this story that you got this, and you've just put a little bit of, or enough self-importance to it, that you let your vigilance down. You let go of your awareness because it's easy. So that's the three areas that on the cycle. And sometimes you may go through all three in one day. Okay, just depends. So heads up for those three qualities. Some very practical things you can do along the way. There's a book I just started. I'm about a third of the way, halfway into it. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Really good breakdown of the simplicity of what is a habit, how they're set up, and how to set up changing them. So if you're in the process of changing it, which you might have been for the last few days, this is a really good time to pick up that book and implement some of what he's talking about. He had a brain injury. He had to relearn a whole bunch of things, and he talks about how he did it and then studied it and wrote about it for a number of years. So some things that make it easy. A lot of these habits with food I've changed years ago, and they've just now they're normal. Okay, refined sugar and processed foods is not much in my diet at all. So I'm giving up. I feel giving up the media. Giving up looking at my phone before noon. Not reading the news. I feel that. I feel those impulses, and I'm like, oh, okay, there you are. I feel where I used to like, oh, I've got 15 minutes for client calls. I got a little time to kill. Oh, what's going on? Particularly the drama in the theater and U.S. politics. Yeah, it was a dopamine kick I see the dopamine kick to know something, to have information, to have an opinion. And I'm like, okay. And this is where it helps me to go, this isn't about me cleansing myself from the news. This is about cleansing my mind. This is about strengthening my willpower. This is an opportunity to create and build the dream and story that I want to live in, instead of absorb the one that's in the media. And I like the one that I live in a lot better. So already the feeling better is immediately noticeable, but I feel those impulses. Okay. Periodically during the day, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's that feeling. And so be really present with that. The more you're aware of, like, okay, there's an impulse, that's okay. They're supposed to be there. You've got those kicks and cues that will happen. The more you're like, oh, okay, that's okay. The more you're present with it, the more you're building a brainwave to a different pattern with that cue. Instead of ignoring it and suppressing it, then the pattern stays longer. It's easy to flip back into. Okay. So when what I do to make real practical new habits, if I'm hungry because I'm not having food that day or eating very light, I drink water. If I have a hunger, I'm like, I don't need food. But if I have water, my body goes, oh, okay, we're full. Okay. And so I have substitutes for that. At other times I'll be like, okay, I want to stay with this hunger feeling and see how long this lasts. Because the hunger feeling will stay with you. It might be 10 minutes, it might be 20 minutes. But then your body goes, oh, we're not getting fed. Okay, never mind. And the hunger feeling goes away for another couple hours. And so that's fine too. When I am not doing water, I have healthy snacks around. I have fresh fruit. It's sitting out. I can see it. It's there nearby. So the food that's healthy for me to eat is available, and the food that's unhealthy for me, I left at the store, I didn't buy. If there is something in the pantry or the fridge still, then I'm like, okay, I see the impulse, but I have something healthy that's already around and available. Okay, so have your substitutes. Like I mentioned earlier, one of my substitutes, ice cream. I had blueberry ice cream yesterday. Blueberry ice cream made with frozen blueberries and frozen bananas. You gotta let them thaw a little bit till they're just a little bit mushy, and whip them in a food processor or a blender. It's nice and creamy. It's ice cream. It's delicious. It's just fruit. So there's ways to have you're not suffering. You're not deprived. Okay. Okay. So those are some practical ways to get creative and figure out what are you going to do with your extra free time if you're not reading the news, you're not complaining. What do you want to put in its place? Because if you have the old system, but you don't have a new system, a new pattern, then the mind will revert to old habit. Okay. So that's those are some suggestions along the way. And now I'm willing to take some questions or talk about the dream I had last night.